everyone and welcome back to my channel. It is day 3 of Vlogmas and today I'm going to be telling you all about the books that I am excited to read that are coming out in 2024. But let's kick things off with January. So in January there are 3 books that I'm excited for, 2 of which are continuations of series I have been keeping up with. The first one is Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire. This is the 9th installment, I think. So this is a series of novellas that follows a bunch of groups of children, and each story follows a different child in a different world, or some of them are in our world, talking about the worlds they came from. There's kind of a whole myriad of different things going on in this series, but they each follow children who have been to a different world through a portal. Like a door opens, they go through it, they have all these magical experiences, and then they get dumped back into our world. And they go to Eleanor West's home for wayward children, where they try to learn how to recuperate and fit back in with our world, the normal world. And not all of them want to do that. So this is just another segment in this series, and I've loved them so far. And this one has a dinosaur on the cover. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. Apparently the main character in this is able to find anything that's lost. So I'm excited to see how this goes. And then on the same day, January 9th, we also get the final installment of the Atlas series, which is Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake. And I have actually thoroughly enjoyed this series. It was slow to start, it picked up, and you may or may not hear more of my thoughts on the second book, which is why I'm very excited for the third one to come out. And I'm excited to see where this group of scholars and magical beings end up. If you don't know the series, it basically starts out where these 6 individuals are elected to participate in the Atlas Society, and it's run by a man named Atlas, and they don't really know why they've been asked to come into this prestigious society, but they find that it's not all as it seems, and their magic abilities have something to do with why they were asked to be there. And it's been very good. Like I said, the second book was very, very interesting, left on a really good cliffhanger, and I can't wait to finish it. And then lastly, on January 16th, we have the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And this book is called Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. Now, this is the only one of the few I have a caveat that I haven't actually read the first book for. I'm actually hoping that my January book club will pick the first book, because that's what I'm putting into the selection. I would like to read the Encyclopedia for Fairies, so I'm hoping that that wins, and that way I'll read the first book in January, and then I can continue right into the sequel as well. I don't know too much about it other than it is a woman trying to create these encyclopedias, or in this case, a map for the sequel, and it seems to be like a cozy fantasy, and I'm really excited to read it. And then jumping into February, on February 13th, I am excited for An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This is the sequel to A Dowry of Blood, which was one of my favorites for 2022. And I have not shut up about this series. I loved it. I tell everybody to read it if they are into like character studies and dissections of trauma. So I'm excited to see where the sequel is. I'm not sure if it's a direct sequel or if it's in the world or if it is taking place for one of the side characters. All I know for sure is that the first one focused on the brides of Dracula, and this next book is taking place in the United States and Massachusetts. So I'm just very interested. It seems like potentially it's a different vampire, maybe one that was mentioned, but I'm excited either way. And then on February 20th, The Bad Ones by Melissa Albert comes out. And this is kind of like a young adult fantasy horror, and it's what I love about Melissa Albert. All of her books have been ones that have really hit well for me, ones that I've enjoyed. The Hazelwood was one of my favorite books when I read it the year it came out. So I'm excited for this one as well. This one follows basically 4 people who vanish from a small town, and one of the main characters, it was her best friend that was one of the 4 that vanished. So she is trying to piece together all of these clues that may lead her to where they went or what happened to them. And I believe there's probably going to be like a fairy tale esque theme in there because that's where Melissa Albert tends to stay in, is these like fairy tale, dark, whimsy stories. And on Goodreads, it says that The Bad Ones is a poison pen pal lover to semi-toxic best friendship. And I'm sold. I just think that sounds great. And then I'm glad that this one comes out in March because I have not read the first book, but I loved the original series. And that book is The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. I would say this has a caveat that I haven't read the first one, but I do think by the time I get to the second one, I will have plenty of time to have read the first one. And I loved the Cruel Prince series. Even though it might not be the best piece of literature, and I know people have their gripes with it, I ate that shit up, and I'm so excited to get into the sequel. It's just one of those books that kind of I put off throughout the year and then kind of forgot that I didn't read it until I saw the sequel comes out in March. This one follows the half brother of one of the main characters in the original series. And I believe it is like at the end of the series, he was taken to the mortal land and now he's returning years later to reclaim his throne. So I'm excited either way. I will probably read the first one before I get to March. And we are really into like the horror fantasy vibes because then in April, on April 9th, The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo comes out. And I love Leigh Bardugo. This one is not something that I think I would pick up on my own if it was not being written by Leigh Bardugo. Very excited about it because it's her, truthfully. Otherwise, I don't even know much else about it. For some reason, it gives me vampire vibes on the cover, but I don't think it has anything to do with vampires. I hope it does, but I don't think it does. It basically is saying that it is a highly anticipated historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age. Not something I thought I would ever like or be interested in reading, but again, it is Leigh Bardugo. I will buy it. And then on August 1st, this one doesn't have a cover, and it's another one where I haven't read all the books in the series, but it's not a continuation series, it's a world series. So this one is A Dawn with the Wolf Knight by Elise Kova. I read the first book in the Married to Magic series, but each book stands alone. So that's why I'm saying I'm excited for it either way, because no matter what, if I read the other ones or not, I'm still gonna buy it and probably love it because they're very cutesy, very cozy fantasy books that have like romance at the center. Like these are all romantasy books and they tend to be very good vibes. Like there are some stakes, but the stakes are relatively low. Like you know that they're gonna get together in the end. And sometimes I'm just really in the mood for that, and these books deliver all the time. So I'm really excited to see what this one is. This was not one that I was anticipating. I was really excited for the mer people and I was excited for the vampires. So the wolf one was not one that has been in my radar or like ones that I was excited for necessarily, but either way, I haven't read a good werewolf romance since I was like a teenager, so I'm here for that. And then closer to the end of August, on the 20th, we have My Salty Mary, which this is pitched for Pirates of the Caribbean meets The Little Mermaid. Now this is a series that, again, very similar to Married to Magic. Each individual book is a complete standalone, but there's one connecting name. So the original one was the Janes, and we had My Plain Jane, My Calamity Jane, and now I'm blanking on the other one, but it had something to do with Jane Eyre. They had that, and then this is the series for Marys. So My Imaginary Mary, and now My Salty Mary is another one in this. And to be honest, normally they are like one-shots where they reimagine some sort of history. So for instance, in My Plain Jane, we followed Lady Jane Grey, who was notoriously known for being queen for only 9 days before she was beheaded. And they take that and twist history, but they also tend to add magical elements into it, which is why right now there's not really any details for this book. Like even on Goodreads, it just says slated for summer 2024, described as Pirates of the Caribbean meets The Little Mermaid. So I'm not sure if we're gonna have a real life Mary in this one or if it's a fake one at this time. I don't know. I'm excited though. And it definitely seems like we're gonna get a pirate princess who is also a mermaid, maybe. So maybe some like daughter of the pirate king vibes. I will let you guys know. I'm excited for it. These are like one of the rare historical fictions that I just eat up every single time they come out. All right, and then the last official book that I have that has a date for release is The Dryad Storm by Lori Forrest. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but this series has taken over my life in 2023. I'm late. It came out, the original book came out in like 2017. It was gifted to me by a friend who thought I would like it, and as I typically do, I put it off for so long, and then finally this year, I think I was just looking for a book to read at bedtime because I read on my Kindle at bed, and I was like, oh, I've put this off for a while. Like, it's at the library. Let me just grab the ebook for free. And then that was it. I am so sucked in. I've actually been trying to pace myself, so I still have to read books 3 and 4 of the series because this book doesn't come out until November 5th. It is so far away, and I've been so intensely, like every time I pick up one of the books, like that's all I do. I literally just sit there and read at everything. The best way I can say is that it reminds me of how ravenous I was for books when I was reading Harry Potter. Like every time a Harry Potter book would come out, I would have to sit there and read it all and figure it out and talk about it and share it with people. Like that is the same intensity I have for this series, and I have not had that intensity since Harry Potter. So that's wild to me that I'm having all these experiences and like so giddy for a book series. And it also kind of gives like kind of Tolkien-esque vibes. We have all these different races in the world, and there's a pattern in this world of genocide. So one particular race will rise up to power and will enslave, slaughter, and basically try to rule with an iron fist over another. And then the power changes, and then some other race does it to everybody else. So we have a lot of genocide in this book. And where the story is taking place is you're following Eleanor Gardner, who is the granddaughter of the Black Witch. And the Black Witch, it was this most powerful being of the Gardnerian race of people. And she pretty much came in and decimated tons of individuals in different races because they were superior and they were pure race. So Eleanor now looks exactly like her grandmother, and people think she's going to be the Black Witch based on her looks alone, but she has no magic. So people have a chip on her shoulder. Every time they see her, they are traumatized again and having flashbacks, and people treat her very cruelly, and she can't really defend herself because of her lack of magic. But it also allows her to put herself in their shoes and learn and grow. And there's a lot of good themes in here. There's a slow burn romance. There's a lot of commentary on like change and adaptation on racism and war. And it's just very, very good. I really give Lori Forrest all the props. Like, this is the type of fantasy I would love to write one day, but I don't think I'm gonna ever be there. But it is so smart and so good. And I am literally cannot wait for November for the series to wrap up so I can never shut up about it again. But I'm very excited for this one. If you can't tell, I love it. Highly recommend reading the series. And then lastly, I'm just going to throw this one on here just to remind everyone that I still love this series and I want the series to finish one day. But Rain by Cora Carmack. This has been put off for several years now because of the author's health. I think I mentioned this in my last anticipated reads video, but we do not have any news on the series. Like, technically, like Goodreads has it slated for January 1st. Like, we know that's not true because it's a holiday. Nobody's publishing on a January 1st, but it's just a placeholder. So last I checked was that the author was still wanting to publish it, but because of her health problems, she hasn't been able to fully edit it, and she didn't want to scrape something together and not end the series on a good note. So I hope I will get to see it, but if it's not this year, I will wait and I'll just reread the series again. So with that said, that is all the books I'm excited for. Like, I think 11 or 12 of them total, and I'm perfectly content with that small list so that I am not breaking the bank. So let me know down below what books you are looking forward to, whether they're a new series, a continuing series, or a debut, and maybe I will consider adding more to my list. So thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for another video. Bye!